Hanrui woke a second time to the smell of rice. The bowl sat on a low stool beside the cot, plain white grain in a thin broth, with a sliver of pickled root on top that looked like it had been negotiated with rather than chosen. A spoon lay across the rim. Xianxia wasn't in the room. He sat up. The world stayed where he put it. His ribs complained, but in the resigned way of injuries that had decided to heal under protest. His palm itched under the bandage. That was new. That was almost good. He ate. The porridge was the best meal he'd had in 2 lives, which probably said something about both. He didn't think about it long enough to find out what. When the bowl was half empty, Xianxia came in through the side door with a basket of dried roots under one arm. "You're awake," she said. "You're observant. Eat." "I'm eating." "Eat faster." He ate faster. She set the basket down, fetched a thin straw mat from a corner, and unrolled it on the floor near the work table. The mat had been mended in 3 places. She gestured at it. "Sit." He stood up, slowly. He set the bowl down with both hands so he wouldn't drop it. He crossed the room with the gait of a man who didn't trust his own knees and reached the mat. He sat cross-legged. The motion took longer than it should have. She watched him without expression. "Good," she said. "Worse than I hoped. Better than I expected." "That's a useful range. Be quiet for a moment." She knelt behind him and pressed one hand flat between his shoulder blades. "Close your eyes. Don't try to circulate. Don't try anything. I'm going to push my kuai through what's left of your meridians. You're going to feel them. Just feel." He closed his eyes. He felt it. A thin pressure spread under his skin from her palm outward. It moved like warm water through a cold pipe, careful, exploratory, finding the cracks. It traveled down his spine, branched along his ribs, dropped into his stomach, climbed his neck, and stopped behind his eyes. He understood what he was feeling. His meridians weren't pathways anymore. He'd known that abstractly. He felt it now. The channels under his skin had collapsed into something more like ash than tube. Most of the length was sealed, but every few inches there were small pockets, small empty spaces in the ash where something could be held, briefly, like water cupped in a torn palm. She pulled her hand back. "What do you call that?" he asked. "Ashroot," she said. "It's a variant, rare, bad for cultivation, useful for one thing." He opened his eyes. "What thing?" "Holding what isn't yours." The ledger pulsed, very faintly. "Body confirmed. Ashroot variant. Native Kui circulation. Blocked claim Kui storage. Possible Ashroot pockets. 27 currently holding. 1 spark. Majin settlement residue." He hadn't known he was holding anything. He looked at his palm. Under the green-stained linen, something glowed dimly. A single coal beneath a layer of cloth. "That spark," Xianxia said. "That's your cultivation right now. 1 spark, held by a settled claim. It'll fade in 3 days if you don't replace it." "Replace it with what?" "More claims, larger ones, stranger ones, anything you can collect on without dropping the rest." "How many can I hold?" "Today, 2. In a month, perhaps 6. In a year, who can say? The pockets stretch as you use them. They also rupture if you fill them with the wrong key." He thought about Wei Tao, Elder Kao, the way Mara, in another world, had told him she was smaller with him. "So, I can't cultivate normally. Not in this body, no. But I can fight. You can act, briefly, with what you've collected. When the sparks burn out, you're mortal again, and bleeding." He nodded. He pictured himself doing this for 60 years. He pictured the version of himself who'd have to keep finding claims, keep needing the world to wrong him, keep cultivating the conditions of his own grievance because the alternative was being weak. The picture ran out fast. "There's a trap in this," he said. She looked at him. It was the first time since he'd woken that she looked at him as if she liked him. "There's a trap in this," she agreed. "Most disciples take a year to see it. Some never see it. The system rewards what it rewards. You have to learn to want something other than its reward. What if the reward keeps coming? Then you walk past it, with practice." "That sounds expensive." "It is. It's also the only price the ledger won't bill you for in interest." He sat with that for a moment. It might have been the most expensive sentence anyone had said to him across 2 lives. Outside, footsteps approached the side door. Quick, deferential, a runner, a knock. Xianxia rose without hurry. "Stay there." She crossed the hall, opened the door a hand's width, and accepted a folded slip of paper. The runner bowed and left without looking inside. Xianxia closed the door, looked at the slip, and didn't open it for almost a breath. When she did open it, her face changed. It was a small change. Most people would have missed it. Han Rui, who'd spent 2 days reading sect faces for warnings, didn't. "What?" She crossed back to him. She set the slip on the mat in front of his knees. A list of names, 6 of them. Below each, a sect rank. At the top, in heavier ink, outer sect settlement trial roster of assigned disciples. He read the names. Sunbao, outer disciple. Promotion failure. Liu Wen, outer disciple. Theft reported. Cao Mei, outer disciple. Family debt. Han Rui, outer disciple. Pending investigation. Mo Cheng, outer disciple. Clan disclosure. Wang Jing, outer disciple. Refused conscription. He read the list twice. He looked up. "What's a settlement trial?" Xianxia sat down on the mat opposite him. "It's a roster for disciples the sect has decided aren't worth keeping," she said. "Officially, they enter a trial. Officially, the trial decides whether they should remain. In practice, the trial is built to make the answer no. How often does someone come back? Sometimes 1, sometimes none." He stared at the paper. He'd expected this. Not in this form. He'd expected Wei Tao to send a knife in the dark or arrange a second beating with better witnesses. The Wei Tao move hadn't arrived because Elder Cao had moved instead, more politely, through paper. It was the same move. Cleaner. The ledger flickered. He thought, deliberately this time. Assess. Threads gathered over the slip. Most of the names had thin, dim threads. Small sect debts, minor grievances, the kind of trouble that accumulated around any outer disciple. Sunbao owed someone 3 rice tokens. Liu Wen had stolen a sleeping mat. Cao Mei's family had failed a contract. His own thread was the heaviest of them. Wei Tao's patron's shadow pressed down on his name like a thumbprint. Then he looked at Mo Cheng. Mo Cheng's thread was different. It wasn't a sect thread. It started at his name on the paper, ran out the window, climbed the sky, and disappeared behind a cloud over the mountain. The ledger labeled it, very faintly, life debt, anchor outside sect, holder unknown. Active Han Rui breathed out slowly. "Mo Cheng," he said. Xianxia nodded. "Yes." "Mo is in the Iron Tablet Mo clan?" "That's the only Mo with sword-bone disciples worth feeding." "Then what's a clan disciple from a major sword line doing on a removal roster?" She said nothing for a moment. "That's the right question," she said. "I don't know the answer. I know enough to know it isn't a clerical mistake. Someone wants him gone. Someone wants him gone in a place where his death won't look like a clan decision. He thought about Mo Cheng's name and the thread climbing past the mountain. He thought about Wei Tao's patron shadow pressing down on his own. Then he thought about a small, useful fact. Any other disciple on this roster owed him nothing. They were strangers. He owed them nothing back. 6 disciples thrown into the same trial wouldn't stay strangers for long. The trial would teach them what they shared. Mo Cheng had a life debt anchored outside the sect. That was a thread worth being near. Yan Qianbei, he said, I think the sect has handed me a roster of people I shouldn't pity. Yes, and one I shouldn't waste. She gave him a long look. That's the trouble with rosters, she said. Used cleverly, they make allies. Used cleverly, they also make whatever you're becoming. He didn't argue with her. He looked at Mo Cheng's name and at the thread climbing past the mountain. He folded the slip in half and tucked it inside his sleeve. His one spark of ashroot kui pulsed faintly under his palm. 3 days, she'd said. By then, he'd need another. The trial would begin tomorrow. He had time to be afraid. He had time to plan. He didn't have time, he understood, to want anything other than the reward. He set that worry aside for later, the way he'd been setting things aside for as long as he could remember. Yang Qianbei, he said. What was your student's name? She didn't answer for almost a minute. Ah, she said finally. That's the question you don't get for free. He nodded. She rose. The conversation ended there because she chose it should. He sat on the mat for a long time afterward, with the folded slip against his ribs and the kettle behind him, whispering at a heat too low to boil.